Hello, hello, hello. This is Gresh from the I Am CEO podcast, and I have a very special guest on the show today. I have Jon Green. Jon, excited to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me, Gresham.
Yeah, excited to have you on. And I think you're doing really awesome things. So, super excited to jump right into all that info. But of course, before we do that, I want to read a little bit more about Jon so you can hear about some of those awesome things that he's working on. And Jon has worked in the investment migration industry since 2008. As a co founder of Latitude Consultancy, he specializes on direct private client business, intermediary, and B2B sales. He has an intimate knowledge of residency and citizenship acquisition process, real estate procurement, and investment and developer relations. Having assisted American clients with investment migration for over 15 years, Jon has a unique insight and understanding of their motivation and needs. And I was preparing for this and I read some fun facts about Jon, and I read that he's very active, including playing hockey year round, summers golfing, skiing in the winters. I'm sure some of his favorite activities, we were talking about all the fun places he's got to travel with his wife, and they get to travel and see some awesome things. But I thought was really cool is that he says he spends a lot of time being active, just chasing his son around, which is, I'm sure, one of the brightest parts of your day, Jon. So excited to have you on the show. Are you ready to speak to the IMCO community?
I am, Gresham. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to this.
Yes, absolutely. So I wanted to rewind the clock here a little bit more on how you got started. Could you take us through your story and all the awesome things you've been working on?
Certainly. So, investment migration is very much a niche industry, but growing. And I literally fell into it. I come, as the bio said, a sales and marketing background, project real estate, and a colleague I used to work with came across the country St. Kitts and Nevis, and he said you can purchase real estate and qualify for citizenship. And first reaction was, that is that even legal? And he said no, it's a fully legal program, and so I jumped right into it with him, and we started promoting that country and that program, the passport, and everything that it avails. And then we eventually merged with another company, and I left them to form Latitude about 6 years ago.
Nice. I absolutely love that. And especially like I feel like it's not an industry that people know a lot about or even probably come across like knowing that they need to do that until they get to that bridge and say, okay, like I need to do this, I want to do this, like how and what are the steps to make that happen?
Exactly right. So a lot of our clients, it's for them, it's like a life insurance policy in their back pocket. They hope they never have to use it, but should the time come, they're certainly glad they had the foresight to do so. And so what we're doing is we're assisting clients with both citizenship by investment and residence by investment programs. So in Europe, you have the well-known golden visa programs offered by Portugal, Spain, Greece. Traditionally, you buy real estate there and you qualify for a golden visa. That gives you the residency and the right to live in that country where you purchase the real estate. And then it can eventually lead to citizenship. And the number one, traditionally, other markets outside the U.S. have been the main drivers, but over the last few years, especially since COVID, the U.S. has become such an important market. And for example, in Portugal, it's been for the last few years the number one source market for the program. And so when I first got into the industry 15 years ago, and I started explaining what we were doing, at conferences, I get a blank stare. Why would an American ever need a second citizenship? Is it even legal? And yes, it's legal. You're allowed to hold more than one. You can have multiple. But that is not such a reaction that I get anymore. It's, yeah, I've heard about these programs. My neighbor did it. A family friend did it. And it's becoming much more mainstream in the United States for a variety of reasons. People are looking for both short-term and long-term. So they're not sure what their home country is going to look like in 5, 10, 20 years from now. So let's provide more options for our children, right? Give them access to Europe or give them that second citizenship so they're not so reliant on one government or one state to look after their affairs. It's all about diversifying and providing more options.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that especially, talking about kids, but also for the individuals, I imagine that are going through the process, like having options is one of the big things. And it's funny enough, I was going to ask you a little bit more of the different scenarios that people go through when they're looking for the citizenship, but it sounds like in a lot of cases, it provides that opportunity to be a lot more flexible and, those options. But it also sounds like if you're doing some type of transaction as well, too, then that just kind of, I don't want to say goes along with it, but it ends up being one of the perks maybe of that happening. Is that correct?
Exactly. I mean, it's opening up more doors in life, right? So I'll give you an example. Some of our clients travel all over the world and they're not always comfortable showing maybe their US passport when they go through customs or they check into their hotel. And so sometimes a small, peaceful country in the Caribbean, which provides a passport program, will come in handy, and they can use that where they're more comfortable going to the these more delicate areas of the world. Is one example, but certainly I think it's more about providing options for one's family, and providing, especially for Europe. That's where these golden visas or citizenship programs are really at the forefront, and what our high net worth to ultra high net worth clients are driven by.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And ends up being like kind of like that status symbol as well too. I imagine being able to kind of say that and have that opportunity.
You're 100% right. It's not so much what watch you're wearing, but it's what passport you have in your back pocket now. And
There
we
you
have
go.
clients, it's funny, but we have clients who collect them literally.
Yeah.
They'll go from program to program, and it's all about more options, more passports. And the classic example is during COVID, the height of COVID, when many countries banned US citizens from travel, from entering into their home country, but those with a second passport didn't have such a restriction. So they were able to travel freely to Europe still, maybe on their Caribbean passport, or they had a residence program permit. They were able to travel. But for a lot of Americans who aren't lucky enough to have that second citizenship yet, they were completely banned. And for some of these clients who are quite wealthy, that came as a shock, that it didn't matter what kind of wealth they had, they didn't have the right passport, they weren't allowed to travel.
Yeah, and I can imagine. I don't know if you find this exact same thing as well too, especially just thinking about more from a business relation as well too. Imagine high net worth. I imagine there's a lot of business dealings and interactions happening as well too. But being able to kind of have that stopped without just because they didn't have the passport or something like that, I imagine probably also kind of put a freeze on a lot of those business transactions that could have been happening, or at least relationships that could have been built as well too.
100%. It's a great point. We just had a client who's in the aviation business, and his biggest complaint was that he wasn't able to travel during COVID, and it cost him business. And
Mm.
so we're assisting him now with a European option so that he's not going to have that in the future. Because who knows what the future will hold, right? With geopolitical tensions, further COVID outbreaks, what have you. It's always good to have options.
Yeah, absolutely. And the word that's kind of popped into my mind, the word globalization. And I feel like that's been, put on steroids for lack of a better term, like after COVID and us being able to kind of go to different countries, spend time in different countries, all those things happen. And I think the world gets so much smaller. You don't necessarily have to be in one place, city, locality to sometimes have those things happen. So again, having those options ends up being a huge thing.
Oh, it's so big. It's so big for our clients not to be restricted and to their own country's borders. And so, again, when I first got into the industry 15 years ago, I never thought about a global pandemic being a motivating factor for our clients. But I think it was a wake up call for a lot of people, a lot of family offices that maybe hadn't planned this far ahead for their clients that they're looking after. And so, this is, again, it may not be needed in the immediate future, in the next 6 months, year or two, but it is always important to have that long term plan as well.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It never hurts to plan far ahead. At least I believe that, and it sounds like you probably believe that as well. So I wanted to drill down a little bit more. I know you touched a little bit upon like how you work with your clients, and how you serve them. Could you take us through a little bit more on like how that process works, how they reach out to you, and what kind of happens from there?
Excellent. So yeah, once we start talking with the client, we'll listen to what their goals and objectives are. Sometimes they may be thinking a program is a particular way, but it's not true. It's something they read that's incorrect, and so we help steer them and guide them towards the best program for their particular needs. So each client is unique. They have their different motivations, objectives, reasons what they're trying to accomplish. And so that will help steer the conversation to the right program for them. And then once they've selected a program, we'll then do some initial due diligence on them to ensure that we can onboard them as a client, both that they'll have a high probability to be accepted for the program, and two, they're not a reputational risk to our firm. And from there, we move to a client agreement and get started building their application. And so each country is unique in terms of that the application requirements are, but we help with all aspects. Some programs require a tax ID, a bank account opening, choosing the right investment, such as a real estate project. So we help with all aspects A to Z from the process to make it as smooth as possible for the clients.
Nice. I absolutely love that. And I know there's probably no like standard like amount of time or what that looks like. Probably depends on, that conversation, what country. But I imagine like being able to kind of like, I imagine there's so much misinformation out there that it
Oh,
becomes so important to be able to lean on experts and people that can, I was going to say hold your hand, and it might be that in some cases, but also feel like you're in partnership in terms of getting to where you need to be.
100%. We get calls from clients asking about a citizenship by investment program in Mexico. Well, it doesn't exist, right? So
Mm,
whoever's trying to sell that, it's either doing it illegally or it's just a complete scam. And
mm,
so we're very careful. Of course, we're making sure that when a country introduces a new program, that it's ticked all the right boxes and that it's a completely legal program that's going to lead eventually to citizenship or even residency, let's say, for our clients. So it's really important that you choose a service provider who's licensed in that jurisdiction. We're also members of what we call the Investment Migration Council, which is kind of an organization that oversees the industry and sets the standards and ethics for the industry. And so we're proud to be members of the organization. And it's always important to choose a firm who's also a member of the IMC.
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you have those connections, relationships, but again, just stay abreast of the changes that happen. I imagine, especially probably during COVID, very quickly, but even today, it probably it pays to be able to kind of lean on the expertise and knowledge that you all have been able to do. Um,
Yeah, 100%.
what would you consider to be what I like to call your secret sauce or the organization's secret sauce, or a combination of both? What do you feel kind of sets you apart and makes you unique?
Certainly. So I think there's two things that set us apart. One is that we not only assist clients with citizenship and residence by investment programs, but we also advise governments on how these programs work. So sometimes we'll go in and we'll help a country design a program from scratch. So everything from, passing the necessary legislation so that it can enact the program, to designing the application forms and the due diligence processes, et cetera. And other times we advise governments on tweaking the program, so making it more attractive, making it more efficient of a process. And so that's where we're helping governments. And so there's not very many companies that can advise countries on a government advisory level. And so that's one thing that sets us apart. Another is that most investment migration firms stick to this traditional citizenship and residence by investment, but we were the first company to also go into the citizenship by descent. So
Mm,
not everybody, of course, can afford the type of programs we offer just because of the price points. But for those who are lucky enough to have the lineage, like a grandparent, sometimes great or great great grandparent, born in a European country like Italy, maybe Poland, Ireland, etc., they can gain citizenship by descent. So this is an option for literally millions of Americans who are lucky enough to have, say, the Italian heritage. They may qualify for citizenship by descent. So it's really been an important part of our business that we've grown recently, and we have big plans for it in 2024 here, because it just expands our database of possible clients So it's not just the high net worth to ultra high net worth, but those with the lineage back to their European roots.
Yeah, that's huge. And I imagine, just as you said so well, like people don't even realize that they have that option. And I think by getting, of course, that information out there, but again, being able to make sure that you're doing the right steps. You're not, falling into some scam or some situation where it doesn't end up being exactly what it is. You get to lean on the expertise, knowledge, the relationship, everything you all have been able to build so that can make sure that you're going about it in the right way to get that citizenship.
It's exactly right. So it's giving us that, having that government advisory team does give us a unique insight into the industry that very few firms have. And then our knowledge base has been expanding to the citizenship by descent base. So it gives us a very unique industry insight, and we're able to help a multitude of clients. And sometimes a client will come to us looking to spend 500,000, say in Spain, on the Golden Visa program, and we realize that they have an Italian surname, and
Mm.
they claim, oh, we looked into it but we didn't qualify. And I tell them, well, let us have another look. And then we go in and we realize they actually do qualify. And so we're able to save them literally 500,000 euros right there. And
Mm.
they're able to apply for Italian citizenship by descent rather than going through, say, the Spain Golden Visa. So having a company that can look into that, and not just be solely focused on the investment category, I think is a huge value to clients.
Yeah, it definitely is it could be in that case a $500,000 value. So it's one of
Yeah.
those big things, but I think it is so huge to kind of have that. I'm going to use the word strategy in place because I feel
Mhm.
like so many times, we can get locked into like not seeing the forest for the trees, so to speak, and not realizing that there are different options in different ways. But again, by having that expertise, knowledge, all the awesome work that you all have been able to do, it helps you to kind of tap into that so that you can, at the end of the day, get what you're looking for in the best and efficient and safe way that you can.
Yeah, 100%. No, 100% agree. And it's so nice to be able to save clients that amount of money when they didn't think they were eligible, say, for the
At
descent.
all.
And we change them. I mean, it just makes their day, to say the least.
Yeah, who doesn't like an extra $500,000 in their pocket, right?
Yeah,
So there you go.
yeah, that's right. That's right.
Awesome. So I wanted to switch gears a little bit. I wanted to ask you for what I call a CEO hack. So this could be like an Apple book or even a habit that you have, but what's something that you feel like makes you more effective and efficient?
Yeah, I was gonna say, what I've discovered in the last week that I'm really missing is my AirPods. So it's kind of funny, but we got huge snow dump in Vancouver here about a week ago, and I was shoveling the driveway, and they fell out of the case, and I realized
Oh
how much
no.
I missed them. Right, so they're somewhere in a snow pile at the side of my driveway. I've been looking for them, but that I realized how much I miss those. That's a bit of a hack. But on a more serious note, one of the really important things for our company has been our B2B business model, and how we've made it so flexible to work with other companies. So a lot of firms are very rigid in how they work with other companies, but we're flexible. We have a whole array of different ways that we can work with other companies, whether it's lawyers, real estate agents, family offices, immigration attorneys, etc. We offer just a wide range of options for them to refer us clients. And that helps give them a comfort level that it's not one size fits all. And that has truly become such an important part of our business model, is that B2B. And so that's something that I would encourage anyone, not just the end client, but is looking for the B2B business model as well, because that's turned out to be a great revenue source for us.
Yeah, that makes so much sense, and I appreciate you sharing talking upon that, because the word that's kind of coming to my mind is collaborative, and being able to kind of meet people where they are, and I think that it came true, and you hear it when you work with your clients, and being able to have that conversation, and then kind of go from there to get to their goals. But also, like as you mentioned, like there's so many different ways to kind of develop and create those solutions and help out individuals and organizations. But sometimes if we don't go and look at it in, I guess, the non-rigid ways, then we don't have that opportunity to kind of see that come to fruition.
Yeah, 100%. It's been great, and because of this flexibility, we've increased who we can work with. And so, there'll be a Canadian immigration firm who only specialize in skilled worker category, which is not our expertise, but they come across a client who's looking for a investment based program, and so they refer it to us, and then we're able to work with them on a referral basis. And so it's just opened up so many doors for us, and increased our visibility in the marketplace. So we're not, we're becoming a one stop shop for all.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. I always say visibility is the name of the game. And sometimes that happens by having conversations with people that are having the same conversations and may not offer exactly what you're offering. And those collaborative opportunities, those win-win scenarios end up happening, as a result of that too.
Yeah, 100%. No, definitely.
Perfect. And I don't want to gloss over the AirPods. I'm an Android guy, but the AirPods are definitely important. And I think the saying is you never know that you love something until it's gone or something like that. So sounds like you might be going through that now.
Exactly right. I'm hoping they turn up, and I'm hoping they still work after I find them in this giant pile of snow. But it's yeah, you don't realize how, exactly right. You don't realize how much you use them, and value them until they're gone. So I better get out there and start looking for them pretty soon
There
here.
you go. There you go. Maybe the sun will pitch in a hand and help you to kind of get rid of
I
some of that
already
snow.
offered him a reward. I've
There
already
you
I've
go.
already addressed him. I've offered him a reward if he could find it. So he hasn't had any luck yet. But when he gets back from school today, I'm sure he'll be on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure he'll love that. At the very
Yeah,
least, just probably playing in the snow. So maybe something good will
exactly.
come from that. So,
Exactly.
what would you consider to be a little bit more of what I call a CEO nugget? A little bit more word of wisdom or piece of advice. I like to say it might be something you would tell your favorite client, or if you hopped into a time machine, you might tell your younger business self.
For me, one of the most important things is setting goals and objectives. And that's both short term, medium term, long term. And I think everybody in the company needs to do that. From a junior salesperson to, say, a back office accountant or relationship manager, as we call it in our industry. You need to set those goals. And even if, you don't need to look at them every day, but they're sitting there in the back of your brain, and then you're going to start to work towards those. And so I'm a big believer in setting those goals, again, not just short term, not just monetary, but it's also can be far beyond that. Personal development, helping other employees within the company, seeing them succeed. There's so many different ways you could skin it, and it's so important that you set these, because it reverberates throughout the company when you set these, and everybody is working towards that common goal, but also their individual goals. You're going to have a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's so exciting when you have that I'm going to use the word culture and that reverberation when that happens and you start to be going, in the same direction or even in a direction at all sometimes helps because I think that there's a certain way that once someone is reaching a goal or even hits a goal, it starts to become very contagious to everybody else within the organization as well too. So I love that nugget and how powerful that is. And two, I think that often we forget about like how important it is to have a metric or a goal or aspirate, whatever it is that people can go after and how that inspires people to do the day to day. Cause sometimes it can get, I don't want to, maybe mundane is not the right word, but
Mhm.
sometimes if you don't have that goal, you sometimes don't know within an organization why you're doing X, Y, and Z. But when you have that goal in place, you realize the steps that you're taking on a daily basis contribute to that goal. Again, it starts to get everybody I think rowing in the right direct in the same direction.
Yeah, 100%. It's so important to have that strategy in place, and working towards a common goal. And like you said, sometimes you get stuck in the weeds, and you can't see above it. You're just doing your day to day grind, and you're not looking at the bigger picture. So by having those goals and objectives always set, you're going to see the bigger picture, and collectively work to that. The other thing I wanted to mention is just a bit of a nugget of wisdom is what I like to do. At least 2-3 times a week is just take 5 to 10 minutes to turn off, phone, laptop, and just think. Try to be creative. Think about what the industry is going to look like, in
Mm.
6 months or 2 years or 3 years. Try to anticipate changes and get ideas around it, and that's exactly how we got the citizenship by descent business. It was
Mm.
it's it's a similar but different industry. Similar in that it's citizenship, but the way you go about applying and getting it is far different. But it's been such a valuable way, and that just came out of just thinking about how we can expand our business and our number of clients, to grow the business. And so I would encourage people, yeah, to take that 5 to 10 minutes where you turn everything off and just think about the future, and what your industry is going to look like and what changes are coming, whether it's technological changes or people changes or regulatory changes, which is a big one in our industry, as programs come and go, countries change laws, etc. So it's trying to anticipate some of those, and being able to react quickly before your competition does.
Yeah, and I appreciate you so much in sharing that additional nugget, because I think so many times I always say we have to slow down to go faster. We have to pause in order to kind of see the forest for the trees. But I think so many times when you're going, you're hustling or you're grind, whatever word we might use. At the end of the day, we don't take that pause. That's sometimes where those great solutions come from. It's usually not by continually chopping at the tree, so to speak, is usually by taking a step back and saying, hey, can I do this in a different way that might be even more effective, maybe even innovatively, if that's a word. And it sounds like you were able to kind of do that in the exact same scenario.
Yeah, exactly right. It's just being able to look at the bigger picture and not just be, stuck doing the grind every day, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So love that. So now I want to ask you my absolute favorite question, which is the definition of what it means to be a CEO. And our goal is to have different quote unquote CEOs on the show. So John, what does being a CEO mean to you?
Well, I think, one of the biggest things why my partners and I founded Latitude was we wanted to do things differently. We wanted to do, you know, not just reward front office staff, the people on the front lines selling and earning a commission. We wanted to reward back office people. We wanted to recognize those talents throughout the company that contribute to the success overall of the company. And that was certainly lacking in some of my previous employers. And so that's one of the things we wanted to do differently, and why we started Latitude, is just to recognize people throughout the company, and not just maybe those that are more well known. There's lots of people in the back office that do tremendous work. And if it weren't for them, the company certainly wouldn't succeed. And so it's about recognition throughout the company, and rewarding people for their efforts. And so that's a big one, as a co-founder of Latitude, is important to me.
Yeah, I love that, because I think so many times when we think of doing things differently, you think of the Steve Jobs commercial, you think of the new product, the new widget, you think of all these different things. But I think so many times we gloss over realizing like the holistic part of business, and how that also very much so, maybe even more so when we're trying to build a better mousetrap. Sometimes that's the operations, the culture, the things that we're doing for the people that are working for the organization. And while we want to have the latest greatest whatever it is that comes out, sometimes it's just creating that culture, building that culture in such a way that then you start to have those innovations kind of come from there.
Exactly. And it's recognizing people and their success, and it's rewarding them. So, you know, we value our employees. They're valuable assets to the company. And I don't want to see, high turnover because we aren't doing things correctly. It costs money to train people and bring them back up to speed. And you don't want to lose talented people. So it's important that they're recognized. They feel that they're contributing to the company success. And then you're going to retain that talent, and you're going to create that next widget, right? By retaining the talent and rewarding them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I imagine that you hear this in, the Googles where they have their time, their own kind of time that they have work on other projects. But I imagine a lot of that happens because you've been within an industry, within an organization for a long period of time. Because I feel like once you're starting out, it's just like a fire hose. Like everything's new, and it's really hard to think about innovation because haven't had that foundation there. But by creating such a strong culture where you have people that have been there, I think once you know, okay, this is who I'm reporting to, this is who I'm talking, those things take care of themselves. So it allows you to be a lot more present about sometimes some of those innovations. But I think again, we don't think about like that business case for that, but also the people part of that, and how important both of those things are, and how it helps out the organization, the mission, and all the people that support that mission.
Oh, 100%. The people are critical to the success of the company. And so, again, we want those people to grow within the company. And we're going to be adding new talent. We don't want to be replacing people because that's
Yeah.
costly.
Yeah.
Recruiting is costly, training is costly. It's time, and time is valuable, of course.
Yeah, time, money, frustration, all the things probably, it could be very, very costly. So I love that you guys have been able to kind of submit that within your company and organization's DNA. So John,
Yeah.
truly appreciate that definition. Of course, I appreciate your time even more. So what I wanted to do now was pass you the mic, so to speak, just to see if there's anything additional that you can let our readers and listeners know. And of course, how best people can get a hold of you, find about all the awesome things you and your team are working on.
Excellent. Well, Gresham, thank you very much for having me. If people would like to learn more about Latitude, you can visit us at our website, latitudeworld.com. You'll see a list of the programs we offer. Again, residence by investment, citizenship by investment. So we have programs throughout the world. And we also do the citizenship by descent for countries in Europe for people who are lucky enough to have the lineage. If anyone wants to get a hold of me directly, you can reach me. My email address is jon.green, that's jon.green, like the color, at latitudeworld.com. And my direct mobile number is 604-340-6599.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much again, John. And to make that even easier, we'll have the links and information in the show notes as well, too, so that everybody can reach out to you, find out about all the different programs you all have and all the impact that you're making. But truly appreciate your time. Obviously, this is something that I didn't know much about. So thank you so much for enlightening me. And I imagine a lot of people in the audience. But I think even more so than that, I appreciate you and kind of sharing with us how important it is to sometimes take a step away and how that creates innovation within the organization, how important people are to help build and create this innovation as well too, and how those things kind of go hand in hand, side by side. So thank you so much for your leadership, my friend, and I hope you have a phenomenal rest of the day.
Gresham, thank you so much for having us. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And good luck with the AirPods too.
Thank you. We'll see. We'll see. I'll let you know.
Sounds good.
Take care.